Welcome to the Obesity Medicine Podcast with your host, Dr. Matea Rentia, board certified in internal medicine and obesity medicine. Here, we talk about a path to metabolic health, and we have real conversations about chronic weight management and living a full life. Just a reminder, I am a physician, but I'm not your physician. So everything that's on this podcast is for informational purposes, but please go talk to your doctor about what's right for you. There is no medical advice being given on this podcast. Welcome back to another episode of the podcast. How are you all doing today? I have been doing so much decluttering this summer, and some of this came out of in the summer reset. That's the 4-month, you could say book study, but it's really more than that because we've been taking the concepts from the book and then implementing different challenges and things. It's been such a nice group. Someone in there mentioned about decluttering and how they had joined Dawn, the Minimal Mom. She had a decluttering challenge, and I didn't join that challenge, but I've talked a lot about Dawn. I absolutely love how she talks about decluttering. She makes it really easy and simple. I think she's someone amazing to learn from if this is something that you're struggling with. I did her course 5-6 years ago at this point. It was Taking Back Your Home. And I, to this day, still use the concepts. So anyway, I bring this up because in the midst of decluttering so much, which feels so good, by the way, I do this about usually 2 times a year. That's the only way I can kind of keep on top of it. We don't have a bunch of storage in my home. It's a situation where we keep what we like and we do not the rest. In the midst of doing that, I found this journal from 2020 when I was starting to work a lot through urges and cravings. And there are some great sentences in here where there are, for example, thoughts when allowing urges, thoughts that I could practice that could help. And I realized it would be a really great episode if we went over some of these and talk about, okay, what is an urge and a craving? What are some physiologic things you can do to support yourself? Because if you don't support your physiology, if you don't give yourself a fighting chance at blood sugars being regulated and your body being able to handle what it's eating, there's no chance that you can work on the thoughts or different behaviors. Remember that a lot of the time physiology drives behavior. People would like to think that they just choose to say, oh, I want donuts in the morning, and they go out and get it. But everyone's mind does not think that. There was something initially that made you crave and want that sugar, that led you in that direction. And so just remember that physiology usually drives behavior. But then there comes a moment when we've treated the physiology, but then the habit is in place and then we need to break it. So that's what I want to talk about today when you notice that, what you can do. So you know it's an urge and a craving and that it's not real hunger, because real hunger, you're going to go and eat. You're going to ask yourself a food that I do not desire at all. For me, it would be a cold, hard-boiled egg. No thanks, unless I'm hungry. An apple. I like apples, but I'm not wanting to overeat on apples, right? Like I know I'm hungry when I eat an apple. For people that eat meat in the room, it might be a dry piece of chicken breast, whatever it is where you're like, when you're hungry, you'll eat it, but the rest of the time you're not exactly signing up for it. If you would want to go eat that, go eat. But if not, and it's something very specific, urges and cravings are typically something sweet, something salty, something crunchy. You're usually not having an urge and a craving for raw broccoli with nothing on it. So just to give you perspective, all right, so you know this is an urge and a craving. Let's talk about first what we should be doing in life so that we can help decrease the chance of that. And then second, we'll talk about some thoughts that you could start to think or different things that you could do. Number 1, I want you to always be pairing your carbohydrates first with a protein fiber, and then you eat the carb. The reason being, you slow down the absorption of that carbohydrate and you don't have this rapid rise and fall of blood sugar. Rapid rising and falling of blood sugar really contributes to urges and cravings. And not only when that's happening that you have that urge and craving, but that they continue to occur in the future. That's where you really run into the problem, because it's a one-off no one cares about. It's the fact that these things get out of control that you really feel powerless. Like, oh my gosh, every day now I'm wanting ice cream. That's really what we're trying to future-proof here. So you're always going to have a protein and fiber before you're having a carbohydrate. You don't need to eat all of the fiber or protein, but you're going to have some. The other thing, and this is the same thing that I basically just said, but different name, food ordering has a real impact on blood sugar as well. So if you start with a fiber source, then you do protein, then you do the carb, again, the blood sugar does not go up as quickly. Again, I really want to stress, you do not need to eat all of the veggies on the plate first and then all of the chicken on the plate before you get to the carbohydrate. We're just doing some of it to start to slow down the absorption. All right, the last thing that I have on the list is going to be to decrease ultra processed food. let's have a quick conversation about the physiology of ultra processed food. With ultra processed food, there are ingredients in there that are not coming naturally out of the earth. They are made in a factory, a facility, a lab. They have emulsifiers, they have stabilizers, they have so many things in them that's allowing it to stay in a package for years on end. And it's not just how a food naturally occurs. The problem with ultra processed food is that it makes your blood sugar go up so quickly. And our mind and body were not meant to take on this hit the way in which these foods affect us. We were not designed to handle that. We were designed to eat some berries that are naturally sweet, but also have a ton of fiber in them and really don't do much to your blood sugar. That's what we were meant to get an amazing, ooh, that tastes great from. But pastries and candy and chocolate and those kind of things, they didn't exist back in the day with our ancestors. They were not around. Okay, the problem when you have ultra processed food, the surface area is really high, so absorption is mega rapid. So I'm going to give you an example. There's a massive difference between you eating a handful of almonds versus having something made with a handful of almond flour. Now you're saying, Mattea, it's literally almonds. Well, one, I'm chewing it, and the other one is a fine powder. A fine powder is absorbed way quicker than you sitting there and chewing the almond. You're never even going to get it to the surface area that the flour was at. So the point is your absorption is very different. Hopefully you can understand here, okay, not only does it get absorbed super quick, the other thing that happens with ultra processed food is that they strip from it the hydration. There's usually not a good amount of fiber, not a good amount of protein. And when they introduce protein or fiber into these products, because the big food industry is getting the message that sales are down and they want to continue to have that, they're starting to pump protein into Snicker bars and, oh gosh, what did I try the other day? Doritos. Do you guys know there's protein Dorito chips? Listen, I'm not going to lie, they're actually really good. I'm sorry to report that because I wanted to hate it, but I think it's 10 grams of protein per serving. But let's be real. Is that the way I want to be getting protein? No, that's not, right? So let's not get it confused that they're creating a Franken food, right? You would never be able to make that at home, but they're sticking some protein and fiber in it. It is not in a way that your gut is very happy to accept it because it has a bunch of other things with it. So having that stuff here and there, fine, but consistently, I think the stats are that people eat about 70% or more processed food. That's quite scary when you think about it. And now some of these numbers, I'm not really sure how they're coming up with it because are you defining healthy food that's prepackaged as a problem as well? So there's some distinction of what's going in there, but this definitely leads to chronic disease. So if you are balancing your foods, you're worrying about maybe the food ordering, you are decreasing ultra processed food, you're going to be in a spot where you're not going to have as many urges and cravings. The other two things I want to throw in here, you've got to be getting sleep and stress can't be through the roof. If all of these things are met, you're going to be in an amazing position. Now, let's say that you still struggle, because many of you still will. There's habits that were there. The physiology is going more toward that, even when you're trying to treat all the things. This is where we get into building some systems that make it a little bit harder to 100% carry out that urge or craving, or where you work with yourself a little bit more. We always start first with, even if you're not hungry and you know darn well you're going to go eat that thing, I would say you still always start with a little bit of a protein and fiber, and then you have what it is you want. We're doing this to decrease that blood sugar going up, to not make this a recurring problem for you. But also we're doing this because it is not as fun if you are not hungry for me to say, well, let me first have you go eat some raw broccoli and carrot and then a little bit of cottage cheese before you have the pretzels. You're not into that. You're like, I'm really not hungry. It puts a barrier up. The other thing that we can do is not in a restrictive, I can't have these things ever way, but we just don't keep it as readily available. In your pantry, for example, we're not going to put it eye level. Things are super tempting to you. We're going to put it up a shelf. We're going to put it behind something else. We're not going to make it be so easy for you. You're going to have to think a minute if you actually want to do this. That's another thing, because often you get the urge or craving because you sit in the pantry and you're looking around. What is it that I can have? You're seeking out what you could do. We want to make it not so easy on you. Can we switch the environment for you? This is a big one. Let's get you out of the kitchen. Let's get you off the couch. When we do that, it tends to turn on a different part of your brain. And now you can actually use that thinking, reasoning part of your brain instead of that subconscious 90% that's just running on autopilot where you're not thinking anymore. So that's a really massive one. Can we change your environment? Can we put a little bit of a hurdle between you and so easily accessing things that don't really particularly help you? All right. The other thing though that needs to happen here is that we have to deprogram this with time. So there are going to be times in the beginning where you have the urge and craving and we need to not meet it with the response of you eating. So the reason I say this, it's because when this is happening, we can't break that pattern unless we stop reinforcing it. Now, this is very uncomfortable when it occurs, especially if you've really struggled with this. One thing I want to say is if you always eat over it, we will never know what the actual problem is. We will never know why it is that you're actually eating that stuff. Typically, it's that you're overtired at night or you're frustrated or you think I deserve more me time or finally I get a moment to myself, whatever the thoughts are that are going through your mind. We need to know what that is and then solve that problem. It's not really the problem of the food. It's what is leading you to do that. So these are just some practical things that we can work on. But I want to go through because this is what I came back to and I was like, oh, these are so good. When you are noticing that urge and craving, I wonder if you practiced some of these thoughts, if it could be helpful to you. So the first one is, I notice I want blank and that's okay. We just neutralize it. It's not the end of the world if you want cookies and cream ice cream. That's fine. You can want that and you can notice that you want it and it's okay. It's not panic. It's not, oh my gosh, now I'm going to go do it. Now I'm not going to reach my goals. You really do this whole catastrophe thing. You just notice that it's there and it's okay. It's neutral. You observe it. So that would be one of the first ones. And we'll have all these written in the show notes. If you go to rentiaclinic.com and you click on podcast, we always have everything written out that I talk about in the podcast episode so that you could go back to whatever you need. All right. The next one that I have on here is I noticed I want blank. I am committed to feeling the desire in my body instead of answering the urge. So you're almost welcoming in. It's okay that when I have these emotions that are going with this, of course it feels uncomfortable, but I'm willing to feel that and not answer at this moment right away with the food. The last one that I have on here that I think is great is this is hard and I do hard things. It is hard. If you are working on this is not something that's coming easy to you. You wouldn't have to put so many brain calories into this if it was something that came intuitively to you. Other people that don't struggle with this would hear this episode and think this is insane that we even have to talk about it, that we even have to go through this. But they have other things that they struggle with. They have other challenges. We need to stop comparing. Do not compare yourself to these other people. It creates so much grief for my patients. When they're seeing online how quick other people are losing or other people's experience, it creates so many problems. Get offline. Seriously, I always say get offline and literally touch the green grass, literally put your feet in the grass, ground yourself and remind yourself that online is fake and it's not real. This can be really challenging and hard for you, and that's okay because you can do hard things. You can change this over time if you want to, and it's not necessarily all going to be solved overnight, but hopefully some of these tools that you heard today, you realize, okay, I'm going to make sure I'm supporting my physiology with what I'm eating and how I'm sleeping and stress and all of that. And then I can ask myself some different questions when this is occurring. What do I actually need right now? What do I need more than food right now? Because there's some need that we're not meeting. And we start to look for how we can solve it in a different way. And the less we answer these urges and cravings, the easier it gets. Now, please realize that I'm not suggesting here that you never have these foods and you're like, no, and you say no and you resist. I remember when I first started out, who I was learning from, they said, you plan your food at least 24 hours ahead of time and then you can't deviate from it. And you have to see, well, why is it that you want other things? It became this really crazy diet culture thing. That's not what I'm suggesting. What I'm suggesting is that you learn when is it worth it and when is it not? And you're able to pause and you're able to think about it and you don't feel out of control around food. That takes time. So this is not restriction that I'm talking about. This is really that you are so loving and supportive to your body that because you don't want to hurt it. Remember, when you're not hungry and you're bringing on extra nutrition, it's as though 900 people are talking to you at the same time. You can't listen or process all of that. Your body, though, when it's getting that extra nutrition, it needs to do something with it. It's overwhelmed. It's overworked, right? So if we want to not have that happen, we're going to need to try some different things. Hopefully in today's episode, you heard a sentence or two to help you with that. Remember, awareness is always where you have to start. You have to realize, okay, that's always where I'm overeating or where the urge and craving is showing up. And then you can start to look at that and see what's one thing I would change around that. Could I switch up the environment? Could I turn the TV off so that I'm not as distracted? There's always something that you can change, but you have to be wanting to change this and not be in a super panicked rush, and be willing to really look at what's there, because there's always a good reason for why we're doing what we do. Don't let this be a thing anymore where you don't know why you're doing it and I'm so dumb for doing this. There is a reason that you learned this. You are smart, you are capable, and there was something about food done in a certain way in which you were doing it where it helped you at the time. And now you've decided it's not working anymore and you're going to find a different way. But don't turn to shame to be the motivator behind that. All right. I hope that you all have a great rest of the week. And if this is something that you're working on, that you find one thing in today's episode and you go and implement it. Friendly reminder, if you're wanting to do the September 30/30 program, make sure that you do that now. I don't know that next year we will have it again. I am really thinking of doing a little bit of a longer program next year. I think that I want to work with a small group over the entire year. We'll have some breaks because I really think that over the summer you need some break time, the holidays you need break time, but I'm really wanting to do some deeper work with the smaller group of people. And so I think that, again, when I run things, I don't run 100 programs at once. I really make sure that there's a purpose behind what I'm doing with people. And so I think that if you're wanting to do this group with me, this September might be a good time for it, because I don't know if next year might look very different come January. All right. If you guys have questions, I'd always love to answer them for you. I hope you have a great rest of the week, and we'll talk soon. That marks the end of today's episode. But if you're newer to the podcast, I want to tell you about something that we have, and it's a free podcast roadmap. So this is perfect for any of you that are listening where you want to be directed to very specific episodes. So let's say that you are just starting out and you want to know, what should I do right when I start on the medications? Or you're experiencing certain side effects on the GLP-1s, or you want to know what to do if you're in a plateau, or if emotional eating is taking over, or if hunger levels are high. So we have many different categories of episodes that we've talked about, because there's a lot at this point. So if you want to be able to navigate that very easily, we have it broken down by category, and also the episodes that are there, and we hyperlink to everything. So you can just click on it and find the episode, easy peasy. If you want that, you can go to rentiaclinic.com/podcast roadmap. We'll have it linked right here underneath the show notes where you're listening. And you can go ahead and get that free resource so that it makes it easy for you to navigate, because I know that it's really hard when someone has an established podcast. I am such a podcast fiend, listening to podcasts all day long. And when I find one that I love, but there's a lot that are out there, I am so lost. So I hope that you enjoy this free podcast roadmap. Again, the link to get to that is going to be rentiaclinic.com/podcast roadmap. I hope this is helpful, and let me know if you have any questions.